Welcome back to another episode of A Putwin Kitchen. My name is Chef Casey, Travel Executive Chef for the Yocho Dihi Winton Nation. Introducing our lovely pastry chef. This is Erin Morris. She is our pastry chef for the Yocho Dihi Winton Nation. And we're here to have a special recipe for you today. We're going to combine a little Italian Old World with some Old World native. We're going to do a beautiful Bomboloni, which is a fried Italian donut. Kind of our version, our play on our traditional fry bread that you see in most native land. So Chef Erin, let's talk to me a little bit about the dough.
Okay, well, the first thing we have to do is bloom the yeast. So this is
bloom the yeast.
Yes, this is an active dry yeast. It's essentially the same thing you get at the store. Technically speaking, you don't have to do this, but it's a really good way to show that your yeast is alive and well.
Okay.
So we're gonna put that in first. I also like to put sugar in with it because that's what the yeast is gonna eat, is the sugar. So it's gonna really start bubbling really fast. So we're gonna do that too.
Now, instead of coarse sugar like this, could you also incorporate maybe honey?
Yeah, any kind of sweet, carby type thing like that. Yes, okay. Absolutely.
Okay.
Other important thing is whatever liquid you're gonna use, we're gonna use whole milk today. You want it to be warm because yeast like it to be warm. Make sure it's not too hot, definitely not cold. We're gonna just give that a little stir so we can eat everything.
Everything incorporated.
Mm-hmm. And then you just want to let that sit for just a few minutes. You'll start to see it bubbling up and foaming, and that means that it's working and it's really good.
So that's just kind of like your yeast is activated, it's starting to eat the sugar, it's starting to eat the milk.
Release all the gases, it's going to help it all puff up.
And what does that do to your dough?
It's going to help the dough puff.
Help the dough puff, so it's light,
fluffy,
airy, fluffy.
That's what we want in a donut.
So it looks like the yeast is starting to feast a little bit. At this point, how would you incorporate your dough?
So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add everything else for our dough. We're going to add flour, a little bit of salt. It's not going to come out here. And then some whole eggs. And we're going to start that mixing a little bit, and then once it starts to come together, I'm going to add the soft butter and start mixing that too. And the best way to mix everything is just to use your hands. Get right in there so you can feel the dough, feel where it needs to go. Make sure everything's incorporated, especially the butter. Once the butter gets in there, you don't want to leave big chunks of butter. You want it to be fully incorporated in there.
And this is similar to the type of fry bread that we're accustomed to. Fry bread was created out of subsidies. It was ingredients that was given to reservations, given to tribes, and they had to make the best of it. It's still a staple to this day in a lot of native countries, and this is kind of, like I said, our representation of bridging a little Italian fusion into Native American food and kind of celebrating the past and looking forward into the future. This dough looks pretty sticky, Chef.
It's supposed to be. Yeah. You're gonna end up with a pretty sticky dough. It shouldn't be so sticky that it completely, never comes off your hands. It should be sticky enough that when you touch it, it mostly comes off. The thing with a lot of flours is it depends on the flour. It depends on how it's made. It depends on the variety, how much protein is in it and all that. Some flours absorb liquid faster than others. So if you find that your dough is extra sticky, you can add a little bit more flour until it gets to the consistency that you want it to be. So once your dough is completely mixed and it's the consistency that you need it to be, you're gonna want to you're gonna cover it with either some plastic wrap or a towel, let it sit somewhere warm. You want it to double in size. So once your dough is doubled in size, it's gonna look a little something like this. It's a little bit sticky, it's not super sticky. It's gonna be real puffy. So now you're gonna wanna roll out the dough.
Seems like this is the fun part.
So this dough is pretty easy. You wanna roll it out to about 1/2 inch thick, but it doesn't have to be perfect. You can use a rolling pin or you can just flatten it out. You just want to make sure that all of your donuts, when you punch them out, are close to the same size. Try and keep them all pretty uniform.
If your donut's too thick, if it's too thin, it's going to cook quicker, which means it'll burn. So making sure all your donuts are perfect consistency is the key.
Once you punch them out, they are going to have a second rise. It's only going to take about 10 to 15 minutes for this second rise on these donuts. You just want them to puff up just a little bit. So while our donuts are rising for the second time, we're gonna start on our olive oil custard. Typically, if I'm gonna do this recipe, I'm gonna do the olive oil custard first, because it really needs to be solidly chilled before you pipe it into the donuts. So I did add olive oil to it. It's a typical pastry cream. And before I tempered the eggs in, I added a little bit of olive oil as well, but we're also gonna add some at the end, because we really want it to taste like olive oil. So which one is this one that we're using?
This is our Arbequina. This is kind of our flagship. We use this every day in our kitchen. We saute, roast, fry.
It also has a nice strong flavor, so you can really get that olive oil flavor in your custard.
Right, and this is almost a play like on olive oil ice cream.
Yeah.
Right, custard is an ice cream. Olive oil just creates such a different flavor that just goes so well with pastry. Again, it's just another beautiful component of what olive oil brings to any type of dish.
The third component is gonna be our macerated blackberries. You can use any berry that you like. We really like these. We got these locally. They're really big and juicy right now. This is the easiest part of the whole process. All we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little bit of granulated sugar. And then we're gonna add a little bit of our balsamic vinegar. We're gonna use the pomegranate today, the Steak Hills pomegranate. You don't wanna use a whole lot of that. It's just gonna add a nice bite to cut through the custard, which is gonna be really rich, the really fried dough. This is gonna be a nice bright spot in that.
Now for the berry chef, what's that sugar gonna do? The coarseness of the sugar is gonna help break down that berry.
Exactly. It's gonna draw the juices out too. It's gonna make a nice bright sauce. The amount of sugar that you add to this is gonna differ depending on your berries. A lot of this is gonna be to taste. You can always add more, you can't take it away. So, start with just a little bit. But depending on how sweet your berries are, you might not even need that much. So we're gonna just give it a little mix so it's all coated, and then you walk away. So while we're frying our donuts, it's gonna do all the work for us.
Right. So we're not looking to mash, we're just looking to toss and coat, and then let that sugar help break down that berry.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
So now we're gonna get to the fun part, the frying. The most important part is to keep the oil in the same range. We wanna keep it for these donuts between 350 and 360 for as long as possible. If you go too high, the dough is gonna fry on the outside and the inside's still gonna be doughy. If you go too low, it's gonna be really soaked in oil when it's done. So you wanna kinda keep it somewhere in between there. So it looks like our temperature is at 353 right now, so we're gonna start frying.
Whoa.
You get the bubble around the edges. You don't wanna put too many donuts in the pan at the same time and overcrowd it. It is gonna bring the temperature down. So in this pan, I'm only gonna do 2 or 3 at a time. But they're immediately gonna puff. It's gonna be about 2 minutes on each side. You're gonna go for 2 minutes on one side, flip it over, another 2 minutes. They're gonna be evenly golden brown.
Looking good already.
They are.
They're puffy, beautiful fried Italian donut.
Fluffy donuts. So then when they're done frying, you're gonna set up a pan and put some sort of paper towel or towel underneath it, and a rack like this, like a cookie sheet drying rack kind of thing. You don't want it to sit in the oil. You want it to drain. You don't want it to be a really greasy donut. You want it to be a nice, fluffy, light donut. All right.
So chef, we're letting these cool. These are fresh out of the olive oil fry.
We're gonna let these cool before we put the custard into them. So the custard doesn't melt and goo all the way out. We can take a look at our macerated berries too. You can see they're already starting to get a little bit juicier, a little bit saucier.
Definitely breaking down.
That's what we want. So we're gonna put our custard into the piping bag. The piping tip we're gonna use is one of these guys. So this is specifically for filling pastries like donuts. They're available anywhere.
It's long and it's a short cylinder.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can get all the way into the middle. It's got a thin opening, so it's not gonna go all over the place. You can definitely use another round tip. That's doable too. You wanna just make sure that you get into the center of the donut. So we'll fill some of this. To make it a little bit easier on yourself when you're piping it, instead of trying to shove that into there, I like to use a little skewer and get a little head start. Make a little opening for your tip there. You're gonna stick it in there, and then you're gonna just squeeze and pull it out. It's gonna puff out a little bit like that, just momentum, but that's delicious, so that's fine.
We have our donuts filled. We have our berries macerated. What's our final step? What are we looking at?
Final start is plating. So I'm gonna put a little bit of the berries on the bottom. Just like to have a little bit around the edges. Gonna stick our donuts in here.
A little bit more on top. So we could always finish with some olive oil.
Yeah.
If you want to do a little balsamic, it's very syrupy, it's very thick, so it's a beautiful finishing sauce. This looks delicious, Chef.
Italian Bomboloni Donuts with Steak Hills Olive Oil Custard and Macerated Blackberries and Pomegranate Balsamic.
Beautiful dish, Chef. Thank you again for joining me for another episode, another recipe of A Putwin Kitchen.
Thank you.
If you're courageous enough at home, please try this.
Please do.